Hey guys, what is up? Roman here from Tech Guides, and in this video I'm gonna show you how to create a buttery smooth wipe transition like this one in Davinci Resolve. But before that, this video is quite literally brought to you by Init7. They are the only Swiss internet service provider that reliably deliver 1 gigabit up and downstream, which allows me to upload this 4K 60fps video in about 20 seconds, which is pretty much insane. They have been my personal ISP of choice for a few years now. I've only had interrupted services for one morning, their customer support is absolutely fantastic, and most importantly, they don't break the bank. Init7 were so kind to sponsor today's video, so if you do live in Switzerland and you do have sucky internet, then definitely check out their availability using the link below. Now, before we're gonna get right into the tutorial, I'd like to mention that I don't really have an awful lot of experience in DaVinci Fusion. I have just recently started to use transitions, and most of my experience comes from applying other presets that are freely available in the internet, and this transition specifically is heavily inspired by EK Photolab and their free zoom and roll transition presets. Alright, so let's assume you have your two clips in your Davinci Resolve timeline and you want to link them together with a nice wipe transition. In my case, I simply have two B-roll clips from one of my previous videos. So the first thing you want to do is to create a new Fusion clip at the end of the first clip as well as at the beginning of the second clip. In my case, I always like to have them about 20 frames long, so here you can see the time, and if you go back by 20 frames, I create a cut, right click, and click on New Fusion Clip. The same you're gonna do with the second clip. Cut, right click, and click on New Fusion Clip. Now go back to the first clip and go to Fusion. In here we can see that we have the media, which is currently simply linked to media out. On the right hand side, media out is being displayed as being indicated by this white little dot. And if you want to, we can display the media in on the left hand side. Now, if you simply want to use my predefined transitions, then you can just go to my website where you can find all of these transitions as downloads under the download tab. Once downloaded, you will find the whip roll down A and B .settings file, and you want to drag the A file into Davinci Resolve. Now connect media in to the transform node and the dent node to media out. And as you can see, we now have the first part of our whip roll transition. And for the second part of the transition, once again, click on the Fusion clip of the second video, go to Fusion and import the whiprolldown_B file. Again, connect media 1 to the transform node and the dent node to media out. And as you can see, the second part of the transition is playing. Now put your second clip on top of your first. I like to offset them by about 10 frames and then apply a simple transition. And there we go, we have a super smooth transition from our first to the second B-roll shot. Now for those of you who don't simply want to use my transitions, let's go back into Fusion and manually implement this nice little transition effect. So the first thing you want to do is press Ctrl space, type in transform, add the transform node, and now you first have to think about if you want to create a whip transition that is moving your first clip to the top, bottom, right, or left. In my case, I want to whip this first clip to the top and then bring in the second clip from the bottom. To do this, go to the beginning of your timeline, click on Create Keyframe on the position of your clip, go to the end of the timeline, create another keyframe, and make this move up. In that case, we have to type in a value of 1.5 in order to fully move the clip out of the screen. Of course, this doesn't look very nice, so we also have to do something that reappears here, and in that case we go to Edges and click on Mirror. So as you can see, that way the clip is nicely moving out of our screen to the top. Now hit Ctrl space again, type in Directional Blur. Now enter an angle of 90, as we want to generate blur in the vertical direction. Go to the beginning of the timeline, hit Generate Keyframe on Length, go to the end of the timeline, and generate another keyframe at length of 0.1. If you want to, you could even go a little bit higher here. This all depends on how much blur you like. Next, press Ctrl space again, type in Dent, use the Dent 2 type, and use a bit of a bigger size of 1. Then go to the beginning of the timeline, add a keyframe of 0. Go to the end of the timeline and add another strength keyframe at 0.06. And finally, most importantly, go to the Settings tab and disable one of the color channel. And what this does is it kind of generates this RGB split effect, which does look really nice. And as you can see, we already have a pretty nice whip roll effect. However, the effect does start quite abrupt here at the beginning, so we're gonna have to edit our splines. For that, right-click on Transform, click on Edit Splines. Now this spline window will open. Select the Transform node. Click on the first little rectangle here and drag this line pretty much until it's parallel to this second square. Now what this does is it basically makes the animation very smooth. Now disable the Transform node, enable the Directional Blur node. Again, click on the first rectangle, and now this time we want to make kind of a S-shaped spline, like this. And finally, for the dent, you probably have to zoom in quite a little bit. Click on the first square, and just drag this until it's somewhat horizontal. And with that, we now successfully have created the first part of our smooth wipe transition. Now click on the second clip, go into Fusion again, and repeat the same steps, but kind of in the reverse order. So we once again are gonna add Transform. Again, we're gonna select the edges mirror mode. We're gonna generate a keyframe at the central position 0.5. At the end of our timeline, and at the beginning, we want to select a Y value of -0.5. What this does is it will make our screen come in from the bottom of the screen. Again, we want to make this smooth, so this time we want to select the second rectangle and drag the horizontal line to the left. Hit Ctrl Space again, type Directional Blur, set the angle to 90, add a keyframe at the end with length 0, as well as one at the beginning with length 0.1, and make it a little bit smoother. Press Ctrl Space again, type in Dent, use the Dent 2 type, again select a size of 1, strength at the beginning of the timeline we want to have at 0.06, and at the end of the timeline at 0. Go to the Settings tab again and disable one of the RGB channels. Make it smooth again. Oh dear. Probably need to zoom in a little bit here. And voila, you have now successfully created your own smooth wipe transition in Davinci Resolve using Davinci Fusion. Finally, here's a quick tip on how to quickly import your Fusion settings into your next project. Simply select your nodes, right-click, click on Settings, Save As, and save them to your C drive, Program Files, Blackmagic Design, Davinci Resolve, Fusion, Templates, Fusion, generate a user folder, give it some appropriate name, and hit save. Apparently I don't have permission, so just save it on your desktop and drag it into this folder manually. Next time you will open up Fusion, you can go to Effects Library, click on Templates, User, and I can see your user templates on which you can then simply click on. And with that, you have successfully created your own super smooth wipe transition in Davinci Resolve. With this video, I hope I could show you guys how simple it is to use Fusion in Davinci Resolve to produce excellent looking content for your needs. But again, if you simply want to use my transition in your videos, then I've left a link to my website in the description below, where you can simply download these settings and import them into your projects. But that is it for today's video. If you did learn something, then definitely hit that like button and consider subscribing for more content like this. Also watch this video on how I improved my studio in order to get the best possible audio and video quality out of my videos. But that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.